And welcome everyone to the latest installment of the DADS, Not Always on Wrestling, right here on the Jeff Meacham Network and the Cassadine Studios. I am, of course, the Wrestling Fresh Jeff Meacham. He is the Renegade JJ Williams. And today, my friends, I tell you this, we have a great show. We do indeed a really big shoe, not this guy, but as all of them would say. We're capping off April with another wrestling show because it is WrestleMania month, so we have two wrestling shows, as we do. And
it's just the way the weeks fell, I mean, it could have been two non-wrestling, but it just happened to be two wrestling.
And I love when it works out like that because I can sink my teeth into. Actually, we had a pretty good mid-month show too. I love the baseball show we did. It was a good time. So
it went a lot better than I expected.
Yes,
and it's one of the most fun ones we've done in a long time.
Definitely.
Not that we don't have fun, because we always have fun when we get together. Shenanigans aplenty.
Yes, buy the shirt.
But that was one of just the most kinetically fun ones to do, and one of the shortest ones we've done in a very long time.
We blew through that. I was so proud of that. Let's see if we can do that today.
Doubt it.
Yeah. Attitude Era pay-per-view. Yeah, no. Not gonna happen. We are talking today, kids, about the top 10 matches, in our opinion, our favorite matches in the history of the Backlash pay-per-view. And I know the Backlash pay-per-view gets a lot of backlash for its quality at times. There have been some Backlash pay-per-views that have just been the absolute drizzling shits. I'm not going to lie. There have been some Backlash matches within a decent pay-per-view of Backlash that have been the drizzling shits. I'm not going to lie. But these matches in particular, JJ's 10, my 10, wherever they happen to meet in the middle, are our favorites. For whatever reason, they just stuck with us throughout time because they were so good. And you're going to hear a lot of the same names because the era of Backlash, when Backlash was super heavy and really important to the company, a lot of the same guys were the stars for a good majority of that time. But you know what? They still pulled the great matches out of their respective butts that they did. So good on them for
it. It's interesting that you say that because I'm looking at my list now. And I think I only have one person repeated.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Well, yeah, technically only one.
That's crazy.
I mean, honorable mentions, there may be a couple people in the honorable mentions that kind of get repeated from other spots on the list. But yeah, I'm looking through it. I'm seeing like one person.
Wow. I'm impressed by that. I'm not going to lie because I got way a lot of repeats.
Well, because I always try to go that route. Like I always try to narrow it to maybe one match per pay-per-view so that it doesn't end up sounding like I'm just giving, okay, all the matches on this pay-per-view, that's my list.
Well, right. But
there's a couple pay-per-views or a couple Backlashes where I have more than one match.
Right.
Most of those are in my bottom half of the list, so we'll get to those early. But I always try to do one match per show, and I always try to keep to one per person if I can help it, because otherwise you're basically saying that no one else has a great match on the show.
I know, but it's...
So keep that in mind as I go through my list too.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
But you're right. I mean, Backlash does get a lot of backlash. I mean, at the end of the day, Backlash was designed for Rock Austin too.
Yes.
Which I'm sure we'll get to at some point on one of our lists.
Maybe.
So the fact that it was designed for that.
It's designed for Backlash. It's designed for revenge, for a rematch. That's what it is. It is what it is, folks.
There's years of Backlash that have absolutely no representation on my list.
Oh yeah, me too.
Not saying that those were completely bad shows, but there was just nothing that really stood out to me about those shows. Going back and reliving them on paper. I didn't have time to watch all of them again because of my job, so forgive me that. I went back, looked through the results on Wikipedia. What jumped out as being stand out in my head just by reading so-and-so beat so-and-so via pinfall, submission, disqualification, whatever, in this amount of time.
I remember that. Yeah.
Out to me. And those are the ones that I ranked on my list.
That's how you do it sometimes, brother. That's all right. That's all right.
And out of the 2 wrestling ones that we filmed, we've all told you, full disclosure, we're filming 3 shows in one day, 2 wrestling and the non-wrestling. Out of the 3 shows that we did in the one filming session, this is the one I felt the best about.
Yes, definitely.
Which is saying something. So I know Jeff is over here highly anticipating my list because
I've been.
What is it that I felt so good about?
Yeah, I've been
especially in contrast to the entrances, which should have been my jam. And I felt
because music. Yeah. I thought for sure that would be your wheelhouse, and you were like, "No, I'm feeling the Backlash one more." I'm like, "Okay, I can't wait till the 29th because I want people to see what you're going to say." So
I'm going to come out. I'm going to start guns blazing.
Oh shit! Here we go.
Because at the end of the day, this guy did not need to do this match.
Okay.
And not only did he not need to do it, but he didn't need to put over your favorite wrestler of all time. We're talking about Backlash 03, Rock Goldberg.
Jesus Christ almighty.
You know what? You say what you want to say, but we talk highly of that run for The Rock. Hogan, Austin, Goldberg in consecutive pay-per-views. Plus the feud with the Hurricane on television, which totally made Hurricane Helms.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Rocky didn't need to do this. He had vanquished Austin at Mania, finally did what he could never do. And then out comes Goldberg.
Oh, whoa.
And say what you will about Goldberg. I know how much you love Billy Boy to death.
Mm-hmm.
This was a great match.
It was.
It really. This was, in my opinion, Goldberg's best match of his first run.
WWE-wise, absolutely. Yep.
And Rocky's the one who appears more than once on my list.
Interesting.
But yeah, coming out, guns blazing, Rock Goldberg. Like I said, hot take, Goldberg's best match of his first run within the WWE. What do you guys think? Let me know. If you're watching the premiere, comment over there next to Meacham on demand. Leave your thoughts and comments down here. I want to know what you think about that.
I'm curious because people know I don't like Bill, but I love the Hollywood Rock run. So that was like, it's definitely a contrast in thought process there without question. 100%.
100%?
100%.
Number 9 is another one of those on the list. One of the opponents is a man who I turned my back on at WrestleMania.
Oh, boy.
The other opponent is arguably the greatest of our generation. And then you've got the special guest referee in the background kind of playing puppet master for his feud. Batista Michaels with Jericho as the referee from Backlash 08.
Wow.
All over Shawn's retiring of Flair the month before.
Yep.
We talk at length about Michael's Flair.
Oh,
we talked about it on our entrances show earlier this month.
We just talked about it.
This match is kind of like Bruno, though. We don't talk about it a whole lot.
Well,
and it's not because it was bad.
No.
I just think it kind of gets forgotten because everyone's so wrapped up in the Flair retiring, people almost forget Batista trying to defend his honor there for that little bit. And then Jericho being there in the background would lead to the Jericho-Michaels feud later that summer.
Because Michaels feigned whatever the injury during the match with Batista and up in Jericho's face, which just offended Jericho to no end. Again, long-term story evolution. My God, what a concept.
Evolution. Oh, I like what you did there.
Evolution to Backlash. See, the hits just keep on coming, kids. I agree that this match gets forgotten way too much, but I'll tell you why it does. Well, first of all, Batista sold this to the point he kayfabed the reaction when Shawn came out during Flair's goodbye. Like, Dave's just sitting there going, nah, fuck you, dude. Just total, like, nope, stone face. Like, nope, I ain't here for you. Screw you, dude. That's, again, I shit on Dave a lot. Lord knows I do that. But
ditto.
But that feud, that moment, I'd say that whole year, from the point he was feuding with Undertaker over the world title up until pretty much after this feud. I mean, again, you had the thing with Umaga at WrestleMania for me, which was what it was for me at the WrestleMania, so good on me, I guess. But he had a solid year there of actually decent stuff to do. Year and a half or so.
Yeah. This was some of my favorite Batista stuff next to his feud with Hunter when he first won the title.
Right. Exactly.
And I have made it well documented how much I dislike Batista.
Yes.
So for me to say that is some shit.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
I'm willing to give the devil his due.
It's on your top 10 list of any kind. I mean, there you go. But again, you have two of the GOATs in there with him. To be completely fair and honest.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shawn Michaels could put a plastic spork in the Hall of Fame because of the match he had with the spork.
Hey, you know what? I think Forky should be in the Disney Hall of Fame anyway. So there you go. If you know, you know, kids. If you
Disney
don't,
Legends.
Watch the damn movie. Watch the damn movie.
Walt Disney Legends, D23 Legends, Forky.
That's right. Forky should be up there with the likes of Mickey Rooney and Julie Andrews. Damn it. I said what I said. Sacrilege my ass. I don't give a shit.
Number 8
completely bullshit. I think it's a stupid
comes from Backlash 08.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, for me, this was one of my favorite feuds that year.
Ooh, okay.
And it was a mid-card feud. MVP and Matt Hardy.
Nice, dude. That's a good take. I dig that.
Matt had been seriously floundering since V1 ended.
Yep.
And he needed something to sink his teeth into.
Wow.
And there was Montel Vontavious Porter. And they had a great rivalry, even became tag team champions together, all while feuding over that United States title.
Oh, yeah.
They made that U.S. title mean something.
Yep.
And it hadn't meant something for a while.
Think about it this way. Two things here. First of all, I will give Matt yes, he foundered after V1. He also got fired during that period, and he got hot again for a second when he came back and did the whole thing with Edge and Lita. But after that, he had a good year of, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
But then MVP in 2007 came in his life and changed everything for him. He did get hurt. He was gone for a while, but when he came back at Mania, off we went, number one. Number two, when you think about the person that lost the U.S. title MVP and how that could have honestly derailed MVP from jump, because MVP didn't beat Benoit Mania, nor did he defeat him at Backlash. I think he won the title from him at Judgment Day. So it took 3 pay-per-view tries for MVP to beat Benoit, and then a month later, Benoit done did what he did. MVP could have gone completely off the rails career-wise because of that feud. And instead, Matt Hardy came along and breathed new life into his career and that U.S. title reign. People helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm on a microphone singing. Please don't at me for that. Lord, I apologize for that. It's not as bad as the damn Death Scene show. Leave me alone.
I still say F you for that one. I'm going to be saying that for a while. Greg Cherry, if you're watching, we need to get a T-shirt that just says F you, Meacham.
That's right. We'll get 2 versions.
DOW logo on the back.
we'll get two versions of it. One for the kids, one for the adults.
One that actually says the word. I'm just not saying because I don't want it to screw us.
Right.
Uncensored, and then one censored. But yes, Greg, please make that happen. I will buy that shirt in a heartbeat.
In bulk. Give it to all our friends.
But MVP and Hardy, that was a sleeper match, a sleeper feud.
Yep.
And it was just such good shit, pal, as Vince McMahon would say. I loved it.
Yep. In an era of Backlash where you had the freaking McMahon's feuding with Lashley for the ECW championship the year before, it's like, man, thank God for this shit coming along.
For my number 7, we're going to go back to 2003.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about a dominant champion who is still a dominant force in the WWE, and a man who would become a dominant champion in his first taste of title matches.
I know exactly where you're going already. I love this. I'm so glad you picked this.
Lesnar Cena, baby.
Yeah, God.
The beginnings of what would be. You know, you look at John there and you think about his feud with Brock and his freestyles. Your move's the F5. Well, mine's the FU.
Right.
You know, and back here, we could kind of see the glimmer of potential in Cena, but it was 2 more years before he would be champion.
Yep.
And every single one of us wanted him to beat Brock here.
Just not wearing that hat.
Yeah, no. But this match was a taste of things to come.
It really was. And when you think about 11 years after this and the match that I still have not watched back to this day, and when you think about this feud really started because, yes, he's the champion, but Brock also broke John's leg to start this feud off. And you think back, you go, leg breaking, not the worst thing he did to John Cena.
Really. And let us not forget, this was just over a year after Brock's debut.
Yeah.
And just less than a year before he would leave us.
Yeah, it is crazy how this match is so many different tales within a short period of time. A lot of shit changed, good and bad, after this match, after this pay-per-view. Because figure Rocky left, Goldberg came in. Just crazy how things, Mr. America became a thing. It's just crazy how 2003 was such a bizarre year all around.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Mr. America because my number 6 match from 2002.
Okay, I was going to say, if you pick a Mr. America match, I'm walking off set. I swear to God, I'm out of here. Jesus.
Triple H versus Hogan.
I'm surprised you have this. I really am, dude. What's even stranger is I don't.
Because of the emotion in the match. Like, the belt was serious hot potato.
Oh, yeah.
Those months, because Jericho walks into Mania, loses the undisputed title to Hunter.
Yep.
Hunter retires the 2 belts, debuts this belt. Hunter then loses the belt to Hogan, and a month later, Hogan's losing the belt to Taker, who a month or 2 later is losing the belt to The Rock.
Yeah, 2 months.
What the hell? And then Rock's losing Rock at SummerSlam.
Yeah. The longest reigning champions of 2002 were 3 months because Jericho was champion going into 2002 and Brock went from SummerSlam to Survivor Series.
That's insane when you think about it.
And
but
people
then think about that star power that held the belts in those months.
Yeah.
Jericho, Hunter, Hogan, Taker, Rocky, Brock, and Brock lost it to Show, right?
And then Big Show lost it to Kurt Angle a month later. So you got 7 or 8
champions in
Hall
1 year.
Famers, without question, Hall of Famers.
Yeah, every one of them.
Every one of them either are or going to be. People shit
Jericho
so much
and Big Show may take a little longer because of their AEW connections at this point in time.
Right.
But
what do you think about, Jay? People shit so much on 1999 for the hot potato of the world titles in both WCW and WWE. There were 8 world champions in the company, and then you figure you had the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw change hands twice. Awarded to Hunter, lost it to the Chamber, lost it back to Hunter. Shawn Michaels won at the Chamber. You had 11 world championship reigns in WWE in 2002. 99's going, hey. But again, the quality of business. 2002 was arguably the greatest year in the company, not contained within the actual Attitude Era.
Yeah.
It was this aggression, baby.
The last year of the F.
Right. Yep. This was the last WWF Championship match ever on pay-per-view. I don't know. No, it had to have been because Hogan didn't defend it at Insurrection. So yeah, this is the last WWF Championship match pay-per-view.
Which is crazy to think about. Because that was 20 years ago. Yeah. It has been WWE for 20 years now.
Just kind of a couple weeks, just in a few days.
Let that kick around in your head some. Yeah. The WWE is still not legal to drink. Next year.
Yeah. WWE became WWE 20 years ago next week, the end of next week.
Yeah. But again, getting back to the match, you're surprised at me. You're surprised at me having it.
Yeah.
Again, I said on our entrances show that I was never a Hogan fanatic.
We all know that.
I'm not going to lie. I popped hard when he beat Hunter. Because at that point, he didn't need it.
No.
It was a glory days run.
Yeah, very much so.
And the fact that he was able to give the title back to The Undertaker, who, let's be real, he had fucked at Tuesday in Texas.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Which then turned into the greatest Royal Rumble ever and Ric Flair winning the title.
Right. So, yeah.
But he had screwed Taker over so hard, making the politic play to get it back. The fact that he was able to do right and give Taker that years later just made it that much more special. I mean, win it from Hunter, give it to Taker.
Yep.
If you are in a twilight run, can you honestly think of 2 better people to bookend it with?
No, I can't. And let me say this before you move on. People ask me a lot of the time why I never got the version 2 of the Undisputed Championship. Who held the version 1? Triple H, Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker. Kind of good with what I got right here.
Yeah.
It looks the same. It's just the version 2's got a bigger strap and it's a bigger belt. But I love my V1, baby. I love this thing to this day. It's the only one that still has my friggin' name on it for right now anyway.
V1.
When I get my custom Creamery nameplate for the big gold, that will change, obviously. But
all right. Moving right along.
Shit. Okay. Yeah, moving right along.
As we enter the top half of my list.
Yes.
You know, I went back and I'm looking at the results and everything. And if I could find a match that rivaled MVP Hardy for being forgotten about, but damn good, I think this is it. I think this is that match.
Okay.
Backlash 2006.
Yes.
RVD and Shelton Benjamin.
Such a good match.
Belt versus Briefcase.
Yes.
Now, while I'm glad RVD didn't lose the briefcase, I don't think RVD needed to take the strap off of Shelton.
No, not at all.
Especially knowing that he was going to cash in a couple of months later and become champion.
Right.
I feel that seriously derailed Shelton's push at the time, but I will be goddamned if that was not an amazing match.
And to not shit on the E entirely, Shelton did get it back before Rob cashed in. So
I know, but
it was one of those where they didn't want Rob to lose in a singles match going into the World Championship win. So I get it. And like you said, that made for a hell of a match either way. So
it just kind of killed his momentum. It's like the summer of Punk. Punk defeats Cena, leaves, comes back with the belt, wins the match for the unification of the two titles. Alberto cashes in. A couple months later, Punk beats Alberto and starts his run.
Right.
The cash-in derailed everything. I kind of feel like Shelton losing the IC title to Rob derailed Shelton because, yes, he got it back, but was he ever as good as he was before he lost that belt? He kind of started to lose his momentum around that point. And then we got the gold standard, the stuff with his mama.
I will say this about the Punk comparison. This definitely derailed Shelton. I agree with you. Punk, I don't think it was so much the cash in because Money in the Bank's always been a mucker father to the champions.
I know.
I think Kevin Nash's involvement and then that feud that went literally the hell nowhere is what derailed Punk, even for that brief time between SummerSlam and Survivor Series. I think if a different scenario plays out with Kevin Nash, or if something else happens that causes the cash in, Punk's still gold that whole year. 2011 was his friggin' year, not just the summer. His whole year was awesome. But I think Kevin Nash being the one to literally derail it with a big old diesel bomb was the problem with that. Not necessarily Alberto cashing in. Because Alberto, it was his freaking destiny to be champion. It was bullshit that he lost the Rumble cash in with Edge. I said it and I mean it. Even looking back at Edge's, having to retire, Alberto not winning the championship at WrestleMania was bullshit. So, anyway.
It's a fair statement. So I'm now going to take you back a little bit. And it was, for my number 4, it was WrestleMania 25. And a loudmouth Chris Jericho.
Oh, boy.
Feuding with Mickey Rourke over the wrestler and having to take on 3 legends at WrestleMania.
Yes.
One of those legends was able to show that he could go so well that it turned into a Backlash rematch.
He still had it.
Jericho Steamboat.
Oh, man. So good.
Again, you want to talk about, like I said for Rock Goldberg, about didn't need to do it. Steamboat could have had that moment at Mania, got pinned, looked up at the lights, been done with it, had the satisfaction of showing the crowd that he could still go. But no, he got in there with Jericho one-on-one and showed why he was the dragon. Before Bryan, he showed why he was the dragon.
Exactly.
And I love the shit out of that match.
I do too. Honorable mention.
The fact that it's only number 4 should show you what's coming in my top 3. Yeah. Because it was so damn good.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't grow up in Steamboat's era. I know of Steamboat from tape, from DVD, from the network.
Right.
From Savage Steamboat and 3, from Flair and Steamboat and their rivalry and their trifecta of matches.
Yep.
I didn't have Steamboat in my life, in my growing up.
At all.
And to see him do that, yeah, Snuka, Piper, that was all great at Mania. Y'all know my love for Piper.
Oh, yeah.
Steamboat made me sit up and take notice.
Yeah.
The fact that he went out there and looked like he was wrestling Randy Savage. And we're what, 25 years later at this point?
Yeah. Let me, before you move on, I didn't have this on my list. It was an honorable mention for me. When I started watching wrestling, okay, and this was back in 1990, 1991, Ricky the Dragon was literally a dragon. He would come out with that ridiculous headpiece on, breathe fire, the whole thing. I didn't get to see Ricky Steamboat be Ricky Steamboat until he went back to WCW. Now, granted, he kept the dragon gimmick. He did do the fire breathing still when he was in WCW again in the early to mid 90s before he retired in 94. But he was having tag team championship matches with Dustin Rhodes against the Hollywood Blondes, Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. It's great team matches there. The match with Flair at Spring Stampede. The matches with Austin over the U.S. Championship, over the TV Championship. Ricky Steamboat, if you were a fan of WCW like I ended up being, was one of the greatest to ever work. And yeah, one of his best matches was at was at WrestleMania against the Macho Man. But this one here, 15 years after his back and his doctor said, "You're done, dude." Just unbelievable. Oh, so good. I'm actually mad at myself it wasn't on my list, but it definitely gets honorable mention.
We come now to number 3. And we come to the reason that Backlash was created.
Yeah, buddy. There you go.
Austin versus Rock. We have talked about this match over the years. I feel like we addressed it briefly when we did the referees show because of Shano there in the background.
Right.
But I mean, the story going into that match, Austin was champion, but they wouldn't give him back his belt. So we had to have that final confrontation so that Austin could get his smoking skull back. And dare we say it was better than their 15 encounter?
Oh, I say that now to this day.
I mean, it's a hot take. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but it's a damn good rematch. Like I said,
it is, man.
Backlash was created for that.
Exactly.
So for that to not show up on my list would be a gross miscarriage of justice. And there's Rocky appearing for the second time on my list.
There you go.
So that makes you wonder now, who's going to be 2, who's going to be 1, because there's not going to be any other repeats. Number 2 on my list, my only complaint about this match is that it wasn't longer.
Oh, so good.
Benoit and Angle, 30-minute ultimate submission. If they had made this 60-minute Iron Man, it's the only thing that would have made it better. 2 best technical wrestlers in the company at the time of my generation. I will die on that hill in an ultimate submission match.
So good.
And this one was hard for me because, not because I wanted to put it on there, because I knew out of that show that was going to be my match. But Backlash 01 in general,
so good,
dare I say, is the greatest Backlash top to bottom card of all time. I mean, it may be a hot take, but in addition to Benoit and Angle, which is on my list, honorable mentions go to the Duchess of Queensberry rules match between Regal and Jericho, the European title, Christian, Matt Hardy, and Eddie Guerrero, and of course, all the belts on the line.
Yeah.
If there was anything more attitude, it would have The Rock in there too. But seriously, Austin and Hunter, the two-man power trip against the Brothers of Destruction. The greatest top to bottom Backlash card in history. I will die on that hill.
I will die by your side, my friend. Civil War style. Brother, 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 shoulder to shoulder.
But this match, I mean, obviously it doesn't get talked about much anymore.
Right.
For reasons.
Yeah.
I would say that this was probably their best match together until the match at the Rumble for the title.
Yeah.
Again, maybe a hot take, maybe a bold statement, because every time those two touched in the ring, it was classic. Whether they were a team or they were opponents, it was classic.
Agreed. I agree. They always had tremendous matches. They really did. It was so. It was always magic when they touched. It's just unfortunate that both of them had career paths that led them apart and ultimately out of the company one way or the other. Yeah. Very unfortunate.
Now we get to number one. It is the match that made my dad sit up and actually give a 24-year-old shithead who abandoned the military some credit.
Right on.
No holds barred. Evolution band from ringside for the Intercontinental Championship. Orton and Mick.
Nice, dude.
You know, from the minute he was thrown down the stairs at the Garden, it all was building to this.
Exactly.
Yes, there was the Rock and Sock reunion against the three from Evolution at the Garden the month earlier. And it was good. And seeing Rocky back again was great, but we didn't get the resolution we wanted.
Right.
So it carried to this.
Which is also so good. So much better than the Mania match. Oh, my God.
The minute that Orton took those tacks to his back, my dad had to give him a little bit of credit. To this day, he still hates Randall Keith Orton. But he texted me because I was working when that show aired.
Jeez.
And the text said that piece of shit earned my respect.
That's friggin' awesome. I love it.
I had to take a break and call him because I wanted to know what made him change his mind.
Right.
And he told me that the beating he took from Mick made him respect him just a little bit.
Wow.
And I mean, I was always a Foley fan anyways. I was an Orton fan from his debut when he was rocking that Midwest haircut, throwing up the big O pose before he started doing his normal, what is now his normal pose. I was always an Orton fan. And so to see him take that next evolution in his gimmick as the legend killer,
right?
Just made my day. I wouldn't have been mad if Mick had walked out the IC champion, because dude has done so much for the business that a short run with that belt, with Orton getting it back, excuse me, would not have killed anybody.
No.
But there it is.
Easy there, Baba Louie. That, again, I can definitely see why you were confident in that list, because that was a damn good list. I'm impressed by that. That was good. We do share quite a few, as expected.
Yes, let's get back into Backlash. And you said there's a lot of similarities. So I'm curious to see what pops up on your list that I had, what pops up on your list that I didn't have. And more importantly, where everything falls.
Yes, which is always, for me, that's always the best part, because we do have similarities and differences. It's just curious. It's cool to see where we are similar and where we are similar in ranking, which I think is always fun.
So, Professor, take it away.
Yes, sir. Number 10 for me is another one that gets forgotten because of one of the participants involved, but I think it's a great, great match. It's actually a great match that really was the end of a thread, a seed that was planted, if you will, back in 2004, when one of them first came back to work after being off for a year for a neck injury, and the other person was fresh off a solid spring, early summer as the world champion the previous year. Last man standing, Chris Benoit versus Edge. People forget about this Backlash 05 match, because Backlash 05 was pretty much a shit show. It was, you had the Hogan Michaels versus Hassan Daivari thing. You had the Batista Triple H rematch that also didn't really get off the ground as anything decent. Unfortunately for all those guys, it really took them until Vengeance to really get their footing underneath themselves, which was, again, unfortunate, because those guys can create magic when they get together. And I think they both, I don't know if it was the booking or just it didn't work with Hunter and Batista till the cell. But this match works. It was so well done. And again, it doesn't age well because it's a last man standing match involving Chris Benoit, which means they had to beat the holy dog out of each other to take one or the other out. Not a good look looking back now, 15 years after the fact, but in the moment, it's a damn good outing for both of them. And I just love it. I love it so much. And I think that it was really, remember, Edge had just become Mr. Money in the Bank also the previous month by taking Chris Benoit off that ladder in front of you and everybody else at Staples Center. So this was more about you cost me my shot to regain the world championship. I'm going to beat the shit out of you. That's pretty much what this was. Great match. Number 9 is one that I am surprised you didn't have. I really am, because I know you like at least one of these guys a whole lot, and you like the championship involved a lot more than a lot of people do, at least from what I remember you talking about in recent years. It was at Backlash 2000 for the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship. Scotty 2 Hotty and Dean Malenko. Now, granted, these guys had great matches on TV and on pay-per-view for the championship, but since it's a Backlash show, I'm talking about their Backlash match. And I thought it may not have been the best match of the series they had, but it was still a solid pay-per-view outing between two guys that you wouldn't expect to see on a list like this from either one of us, because both of them got lost so far in the shuffle. Sky 2 High still trying to get into a Rumble match. And Dean Malenko is still trying to not be a horseman anymore at this point. It's just a crime that both these guys are largely forgotten by history. I think that's bullshit. Scotty left his job last year with WWE after being there for a long, long time. I actually met Dean Malenko on the Jericho Cruise. He's working with AEW now. But those guys, much like we talked about on the baseball show, the fact that people like Eric Karros don't have a championship ring with the team they get most famous with, the Dodgers. These two guys not getting talked about near as much as they should is criminal. Absolutely barbaric level criminal.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with gimmicks. Poor Scotty, whether it was being part of Too Much or then the evolution of that into Too Cool and doing the worm. Like, Scotty 2 Hotty was just never taken seriously, period. Right. He could have been the WWF champion and he still would never be taken seriously.
Right.
Dean Malenko, on the other hand, the man of 1,000 holds, armbar. Again, throw him up in there in that list along with Angle and Benoit as one of the greatest technicians of my generation. But when they turned him into that goofy James Bond wannabe bullshit, they killed the man of 1,000 holds.
Easily.
So
just terrible.
I mean, and this match was hot off of the defection because the Radicals had come over January of that year.
Yeah. Yep.
So that stank of being one of the greatest in the world was still on Malenko.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why these matches with Scotty were so good.
Yes, exactly.
Because Scotty is an amazing wrestler. And unfortunately, no disrespect to the deceased, Brian Christopher held him down.
Yeah.
As great as they were as a team, Scotty just couldn't get past the Too Cool image because he was always saddled with Brian, Grandmaster Sexay.
Yep.
Even when he was doing the Too Cool 2.0 and it was just him and Rikishi, he couldn't get past Rikishi. He was always being held down. Yeah. And I think that's part of why this match gets forgotten about.
It really is.
It is criminal.
Yep. It is.
More so for Malenko than Scotty.
Yes.
Because Malenko is arguably right up there with those other two as far as you want to talk about the greatest technical wrestler of our generation. We could sit here and have a debate all day, every day about Benoit, Angle, and Malenko. And every single one of them, there are solid points as to why they should be the GOAT.
And Eddie is also in that group too. I mean, people will talk about Eddie because of the entertainment value of Eddie, but he's also up there with Malenko, especially in ECW.
Eddie is definitely top 5, but I feel those 3 are your arguments for top 3.
Okay. I will also
no
say
disrespect to Eddie, but
no,
he's
no.
definitely in that conversation of top 5. I don't know if he gets conversation as top 3.
Fair enough. I'll say this. Dean Malenko was such a good wrestler that back in 1997, when Pro Wrestling Illustrated couldn't decide on the number 1 guy in the 500 based on their usual criteria, they just said, okay, just pick the best wrestler. Dean Malenko was chosen. So there you go. Number 8 is what Backlash is all about. WrestleMania rematch. Benoit, Michaels, Hunter. Yeah. And again, Chris Benoit beats Triple H kicking out of his move into the crossface. Benoit beats Shawn Michaels in Canada with a sharpshooter. That's a "Hi Canada, we're sorry" moment.
Yeah. Right, you can even see it in Shawn's shrug there in the image, like, sorry.
That's right. I still hate you bastards.
I loved that they did that too, and I did contemplate this, but I figured I already had all of them represented and ways that I could gush over them. But
right,
I did seriously contemplate it, and I loved the fact that Benoit beat Hunter decisively to win the belt at Mania, and then this time he pinned Shawn.
Right, exactly.
Made him submit, whatever. But
I got you.
Shawn the second time around. He didn't go after Triple H again. It's like he made sure to beat the champion for the belt.
Yep.
And then, like, okay, this time it's your turn.
Right, exactly. And again,
and the fact, like you said, the fact that it was in Canada and he could make Shawn tap to the sharpshooter just made it that much more poetic.
Right, exactly. So well done on so many fronts. And again, Backlash 04 and Backlash 05, not the greatest of the Backlash series. I'm not even going to try to, try to even, go into a debate on that. But that match, the main event of Backlash 04 was just so well done. As was one of the main events of Backlash 07, which again, another WrestleMania rematch, because that's what we do at Backlash. Last man standing again. Backlash seems to be the home of last man standing, but that's okay, because this match, again, their match at Mania, I think, was okay. I even think it was in a spot where, had it not been Cena and Shawn Michaels in the last match, they probably should have been the main event, because it was the Royal Rumble winner against the world champion. But you've got John Cena and Shawn Michaels. You're not going to have that be not the last match. So this match, I think both guys took it to each other's limits, took it to the other person's limit, and was just so intense and so well done. It ended in a draw, which is not always a popular finish. It's kind of like a fart in church type deal, but this one went over and it worked. So much so they had the rematch on SmackDown, which also ended in a draw, which led to, of course, Edge cashing in Mr. Kennedy's Money in the Bank contract. But again, just so well done, I think these two were. I really do. Just one man's opinion, as it is on this show. Everything is subjective, but I likes it.
I give Dave a lot of shit.
Yes.
And a lot of it I feel is justifiable.
Right.
But he did always have great opponents. Dave's problem just seemed to be that it always seems to take more than a match to get the true result. And I think that's part of what turned me off to him.
Yes, I agree with that.
Like you were talking about Hunter. The Mania match was good, but it wasn't what it needed to be. The Backlash match was good, but it wasn't what it needed to be. The final match in the Cell is what WrestleMania needed to be, goddammit.
Right? We're not saying put the Cell at WrestleMania.
No,
just the match quality, the intensity,
match.
Yeah.
Same thing here with Taker.
Yep.
You know, it took a couple matches to finally get that click. And I get it. You know, some people have that issue where it takes a minute. Some people can go in there and, like we said, wrestle a spork and get the spork into the Hall of Fame based on their match. It doesn't matter who they're wrestling. Another prime example I can think of is, and no disrespect to either opponent, but the Punk Morrison feud.
Yes.
On paper, it should have been great from Jump Street, but Morrison was still getting used to the main event spotlight. Punk was still being held down for whatever reason and just not being allowed to be what he needed to be. So it took a few times until that match on ECW TV where everything just finally gelled and they had that great match.
Yes. I will say this about the Punk Morrison thing. Granted, that feud started under horrible, dubious circumstances. Let's not front. But to not have them get their collective shit together until almost 3 months later, that's not going either one of them. So, and
I think a lot of that had to do with the restrictive booking because the ECW title was a throwaway title.
It happened so quickly. The minute Rob lost the championship, it became like, okay, afterthought, which, you know, again, that was the fear that Rob and Paul both had, and sure as shit, it came to fruition. So anyway, we went off into the weeds, but that's okay. Next one is not a WrestleMania rematch in and of itself, but it is another gimmick match in that it's a fatal 4-way. And it's from the much heralded earlier Backlash 2008. No, I'm sorry, 2007. Just kidding, 2007. John Cena, Shawn Michaels, Edge, and Randy Orton. Now you figure this. You have the WrestleMania main event there with Cena and Michaels, which was so good. And they'd had a great match on Raw that was even better before this. Then you have Edge and Orton, who had imploded, unceremoniously as rated RKO. And you have Edge, who had not yet obtained the Money in the Bank briefcase from Mr. Kennedy yet. You had Orton, who was still not quite the WWE champion till later on this year. So you had 4 guys who had been tested, had proven to be main eventers, but they really, I felt for me, these 4 guys went into the Backlash with a chip on their shoulder because they had to deal with Undertaker and Batista on the same card, because they had so much, well, John's not really, getting it done. And yeah, he and Shawn are doing well, but yeah. A lot of buts on this match. And these 4 guys had a great friggin' fatal 4-way. It was such a good match. I love this match. That's why it's above the Last Man Standing match, because I feel it's better. I really do.
Okay.
The story may not be as strong because of Undertaker Batista being such a great story, but this match was just so kick-ass for me. I love it. I love it to pieces.
Fair.
Let's see. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Oh, wow. We're in my top 4, man. We're moving along here. No, I'm sorry. Top 5.
Okay.
Number 5 for me is from the event that you talked about, Hogan and Edge. Hogan and Hunter. I'm screwing up early here today. Don't mind me. Backlash 2002. I did say Edge because he's in this match. Kurt Angle. This is not the hair versus hair match. That was Judgment Day. But this was the one where they had been buddies for so long over the years. And Edge's sarcastic, sardonic nature just couldn't help itself. Making fun of Kurt Angle, really being the one to initiate the "you sucks" on him, the poor bastard. God, poor Kurt. To this day, he gets that shit 20 years later. God,
he eats it up, though, at this point.
He totally does. He loves it. It was funny. He even seemed to be into it back then, which I think is funnier than hell looking at back at who Kurt Angle was back then. But yeah, this whole feud that started right after WrestleMania when the brand extension really took off, and led into Judgment Day with the hair versus hair match, which led to some ridiculous stuff from Kurt, but still great stuff. This match here was a solid jump off point. I think both guys really did a tremendous job of getting everything that they wanted to get done. It was so well laid out, so well executed. So good from both guys.
All I got to say is you can't go wrong with the SmackDown 6.
Yep, that's exactly it.
There's a third of it right there.
Yep.
Angle Benoit, Edge Ray, Los Guerreros.
That's it. There you go.
You got any of those ingredients in the pot of chili, you're going to have a fantastic time. The more ingredients, the spicier it gets.
That's it.
But you have any two of those ingredients in the pot bubbling, you're gold.
Exactly.
You're gold. And that match is just one of those examples.
Yep.
And I love that picture of Edge there because he still has the shark tattoo. He hadn't gotten the cover up yet.
Yeah.
That shark tattoo that he always got ribbed about. I always see that and I think about my own Negaduck tattoo and how people give me crap about my duck and how everyone used to give him crap about that tattoo and how it looked like the old street sharks.
Right.
So anytime I see matches with Edge or pictures with Edge and I see that shark, I always chuckle a little bit because of reading his book and hearing how he was always given so much shit for that tattoo.
You talk about a memoir that needs a sequel. Can we get Edge's memoir part 2, please, Adam? Can we make that happen, brother?
I'll go you one better. Can we get Angle part 2?
Either one, exactly.
Because he's got all his TNA days to talk about, his return to the company, Hall of Fame. Angle got some shit to talk about still.
Yeah, both those guys wrote their books 2-3 years too early. At least. You mentioned that match is gold as far as the SmackDown 6. Every other match I have going forward is about gold indeed, my friend.
Okay.
Number 4 wasn't a WrestleMania rematch. But goddamn, it should have been a WrestleMania main event because I was at the WrestleMania that should have been the main event for, sons of bitches. Rock and Triple H. We talked about this when we talked about the referee show earlier in the year. Is there a more Attitude Era match than this match right here? Rock, Austin, Hunter, the McMahons. This is the Attitude Era.
Pretty much.
And
you're just missing Taker, Kane, Shawn.
Yeah, Austin's not quite ready for prime time yet. He came in and did the brief run in at the end, but he's coming back later this year. Hunter's the WWF champion. He's cooking with gas. Vince is freshly back to being where Vince should be, the ultimate son of a bitch heel. Shane's the referee, and Shane's doing referee Shane things. Stephanie's still slutty Stephanie McMahon Helmsley with her championship belt, and God bless her for that. And then you got The Rock, who doesn't know who to trust, but he's got Austin, who doesn't trust anybody. You talk about a chili pot full of ingredients. This is the spiciest goddamn chili this side of jambalaya, motherfucker.
What?
Exactly. This is some spicy ass shit right here. This is New Orleans gumbo, made by Benjamin Sisko's dad gumbo. This is some shit. My goodness. But everything hit on point in this match. In a show that was okay. You had the Schuster Kurt Angle match, which I chuckle like a child at still because of Paul White showing the Hulk Hogan impression. So funny. But I can't. And then you had the Scotty Malenko match I mentioned earlier. Other than that, I really can't think of anything that really stood out of that show. This match stands out across time, not just this show. Because there was so much good shit in this one match alone. Did they have a better match at Judgment Day? Maybe. We could talk about that because it was an Iron Man match. You had Shawn there. You had the return of The Undertaker. You had everybody in DX involved. So there could be discussion about it. But for me, this is their best one-on-one match for the WWF Championship. Just the two of them, one-on-one. And that's a hot take in and of itself.
Hey, that's what this show's about, man.
That's it. My number 3 was not only the saving grace for one of the participants in your family's eyes, but it was your number one. No holds barred, Randy Orton and Mick Foley / Cactus Jack. Again, didn't need to be a thing, but it did. Because Mick Foley felt that he didn't give his best effort at the Garden where he should have. And the match booking was so convoluted. You had Evolution, you had the Rock and Sock. It was kind of a cluster booking. It really was.
Yeah.
This match certainly was not.
No.
This match hit on every single thing he needed to hit, and more so. Orton didn't need to take them tacks to the back, except that he did, because he needed to be de-virginized as far as the world of hardcore, because Randy Orton was still a pretty boy. And he definitely came out of that shell in a hurry here.
This is the match that showed he was ready for SummerSlam.
Yep. Exactly.
If this match had bombed, he would not have beaten Benoit.
Nope. I agree with that 150% if you actually have that, which is not really a thing, but
I mean, we talk about how Foley was the guy to get Rocky ready for Austin. And technically speaking, they weren't trying to get Orton ready for Benoit, but I feel like had that match bombed, there would have been no Randy Orton walking to the ring at SummerSlam 04 in those peach tights, finding the belt in the middle of the ring, picking it up and posing on the turnbuckle.
Jesus Christ almighty.
I can't say we can't talk about Benoit like he's Bruno, because we've talked about him a shit ton in this episode. But, for real, like that match would not have been possible if it wasn't for Orton Foley.
Number 2, again, I'm pretty sure Backlash is going to be called the Last Man Standing show at this point, as is this show, because my number 2 is also a Last Man Standing match. Edge and Cena.
Look on his face says it all. It's like, really? Another Last Man Standing on your list, Meacham?
Right? And this,
like, God damn it! Don't you watch any other kind of match, Meacham?
No, I don't. And this match,
that little smug look.
I love it from Edge. Such good shit. The finish with Big Show literally throwing John Cena through a spotlight. You can't tell me Cena's not hardcore and not willing to do any damn thing to get the company over, man. Good Lord have mercy. He's crazy. He's legit crazy.
I have never said an ill word about Cena, the businessman, the person, right, the man outside of the ring.
Yes.
I have only ever said an ill word about John Cena, the performer, because there's so many times when he should have lost and he didn't. And at the end of the day, that booking, along with the booking of Batista and Hunter and even Orton to a sense, is what made me stop watching.
Right.
You think about all of the next generation that should have been put over. We've talked about it in the entrances show, how Nexus should have gone over. Rusev should have gone over. Bray should have gone over. Stuff like that is what turned me off. Because those guys that were going to be there the next 5-10 years after they hung up their boots, I live and die by this. I'm never going to leave. I'm making fun of you, Rocky, for going to Hollywood, and now I'm in Hollywood, and I'm not there like I said I would always be, and I'm a hypocrite now.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped watching.
I believe it. I understand, brother. I get it. I totally sympathize. I do. And I do. Because I even give him shit for it. So, numero uno for me was also on your list, just not the number one spot.
I'm going to be curious to see if my inbox blows up when this airs, by the way, with him messaging me.
Really? Yeah, that's it. Number 1 was, I think you're number 3. I didn't take notes. That's my bad. 100% my unprofessional bad there. But it was on your list. It's why Backlash exists, damn it. You've got the battle for the WWF Championship. You've got the battle for the Smoking Skull belt. You've got Shane McMahon refereeing, as far as I know, his first pay-per-view main event. As, you know, not Shane Stevens, the referee in the early 90s. Great storytelling here. I mean, you've got Vince involved here at the end with handing the belt over to Austin. You've got Stephanie being inducted by The Undertaker. And you've got a great friggin' match to end the show. Such amazing stuff here. You talked about it earlier. I can't really say too much more about it that you didn't already say because it was so good. So I'm impressed it was both on our list. I wasn't surprised it was on both our lists at all because we both love that match so much.
Especially knowing my love for Dwayne. I mean, you knew it was going to be there somewhere. I mean,
absolutely.
It definitely was contention for my number 1, or at least I'll say my number 2 because you knew what my number 1 was going to be.
Right.
It was definitely in contention for my number 2, but I just felt like that ultimate submission match was just a smidge better.
Yes.
Just a smidge better. So that's why it got bumped to 3. But what do you guys think? What did we leave off of our Backlash lists that you think deserve to be recognized? Let us know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down there. I personally, I don't know about Meacham over here, but I personally am curious to see what y'all think about these lists, what we may have forgotten about and left out. Because like I said, this is the list I felt the best about going into this filming session. And man, I think I just knocked it out of the park with this one. I'm not saying that I feel your list was bad because I would never say that to you. It was a stellar list, but I just felt so good in mine, you know, that I just came up and just knocked it out of the park.
Like I said, we talked about it all month that it was going to be you felt strongest, and it's not hard to see why. You had a great list. I felt my list was good too. I honestly think your list was better. I really do, because you had a lot more diversity in your list, and you had much more strength in your reasons why they were on your list. So I applaud that. I can't wait to see what happens next month, because we're talking about The Rock's matches and we're talking about Dwayne's movies. And Lord knows I haven't seen a whole lot of Dwayne's movies. So it's going to be an interesting month of on the 2 dads we do.
We have quite a few Dwayne movies that we will be covering. It's just a matter of you finding the ability to view some of these.
I'll get it done. Don't worry.
Getting your shit in, partner.
That's right. I'll get my shit in, kids. That's it. In any event, we encourage you to come back in 2 weeks as we talk about the greatest matches in the career of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, whatever you want to call him this week. We encourage you to come back in 4 weeks when we talk about our choices, the dads collectively, for Dwayne Johnson's best movies. And we encourage you to watch us each and every week on the Custody Studios, 5 days a week over there. We encourage you to watch us on the Jeff Meacham Network 5-ish days a week, depending on pay-per-views or premium live events, whatever that shit you want to call them these days. But we thank you for your patronage each and every time we're on the show together, whether I'm on the air with me, whether I'm on the air with JJ, whether JJ's on the air with whatever he's doing. We appreciate you guys coming back to us every single day, and we thank you, and we can't wait to see you guys in 2 weeks right here on Dads, and next week right here on the Jeff Meacham Network.